So this is another recording of a scene from James Joyce's Ulysses from my wife's Blooms and Barnacles James Joyce Ulysses blog and podcast. So there's a character called Mr. Breen, and Mr. Breen is not well. He has basically become mentally unhinged after receiving a letter that says a postcard with the words UP up, UP colon up. And he interprets this as a threat because in the time period, I didn't know this, UP up meant your time is up. And it's used in Dickens as well, apparently. And so he thinks someone's threatened to kill him. So he's running around Dublin trying to get solicitors to engage to get £10,000 in damages from the person that he thinks sent him this threatening message. So the illustration that I'm trying to bring together here will just be Mr. Breen, and he's described as being dressed in his bathroom slippers. Doesn't look well. He has a very, very long beard, and his poor wife is driven to distraction, like trying to chase him around Dublin as he goes from solicitor to solicitor. So anyway, that's the challenge, just to draw poor Mr. Breen. And of course, the some of the Dublin lads are having a good old laugh at him because it's funny to them. So different time, 1904. So let's see if we can concoct something. Now, I usually give myself, it's kind of looking like me here a bit. So I usually give myself like a time limit on these drawings. I don't want to go too far because otherwise, I'll be here all day. So, God, that really looks like me. So I'll change that in a bit. So he's described as walking around with two big books, and then he's got the postcard in his hand. So we want the postcard in one hand. I'm already being a little too picky here. Let me undo all this. And let's just rough in the body before we do anything like that. And I'm going to increase the size of this thing, Control C, unconstrained, and actually make the background color white. And just change the aspect ratio a little bit. That's better because I was running off the page. So let's keep going. So we have to have the bathroom slippers. And the books are described, I think they're fairly big. I imagine them as, those big hardback law books because he's reading the law. And he's got the postcard. So we'll put the postcard in his hand here. And we want people who know the book to be able to look at this and kind of figure out without, too much more than that this is Mr. Breen. Okay, so I'm going to go flip it horizontal because that usually gives me like a moment of fresh view on the design. And that's not too bad. Okay, so I think I probably would try to rotate him a bit that way. Okay, so I'm going to make the layer different color using the blend mode so I can draw over it with a clean layer. And now we have that as a basis to work from. So get the brush, shaggy brush. You'll have different shaggy brushes on your computer, but something like this will be fairly decent. And I think I've just lost pressure sensitivity. Good God. Oh, I hate these programs sometimes. Let's see. Oh, no. There it is. What just happened there? So the shaggy brush. Ah, there we go. Oy, that would have been really bad. So let me make a new layer again. And just make the brush size a bit smaller. And look, there it's gone again. What is going on here? Okay, that seems to be back again. Without pressure sensitivity, it's really not nice to draw. It's an incredibly crude drawing tool without it. People might wonder if they've never used it. Try drawing on this tablet thing without pressure sensitivity. Also, this brush is a little on the big side. I'm going to take the flow down just a bit because I like to be able to do layers like you would with like an actual pen. And we want his eye direction to be looking directly at this. He should be a bit angry too. He's too sad here, so I'm going to make him look like he's outraged. This is an angry man. He's not happy about this, so that's better. He's basically a menace now. He's just convinced that he can find the imagined culprit. Well, the postcard's real. Someone sent it to him. And this is why I like working with a certain kind of opacity, because I can build up this really nice layer upon layer upon layer and get away from the awful flat, sterile digital look that we see everywhere these days. So I like being able to use the digital tools, but I don't like the digital look. So we try to use the digital tools, but in a way that kind of calls back to like real media, pencil, crayon, oil paint, that kind of thing. If anyone wants me to upload the brushes, just put a comment below. I'm not going to bother unless people actually want it. I don't know, I'm more than happy to put a link to those files, both my preset files and my brush file. Okay, so I don't know if the text describes him as having a hat. Everybody had a hat in those days, though. Like, that was very common, and he still has some. As decayed as he is, I think let's just give him a hat, but maybe it's a bit shabby. Okay, and we can add, you know, some whiskers and things fraying off him a little bit. Now, I like to draw him as being a bit baggy. I don't think a man in this condition would be anything other than a bit scrawny. So let's see if this fits his character. Disheveled. Hasn't been looking after himself. Okay, these books, let's tie these down. We can draw through and then erase the bits that we don't need. So we want to avoid too many parallels because it's parallel spaces are less interesting. So I'm putting this book here at a slight angle. And then we want his arm over here. Actually, I think I want to put the cuff up a little higher than that, so that we can get the hand down really over the edge of the book. Knuckles. Okay, not great, but let's see. Let me switch that off. Yeah. Let's pull these up a bit. I'm hearing my computer fan a lot these days. Let's see. Don't see anything suck on resources too much. We're going to put some pages in here. Okay. Let's flip it horizontally. That looks all right. Now, I might want to make this a bit bigger. I think his hand looks a little small. So I'm going to erase this a little bit. Lasso tool here. And just make it a bit bigger. That's better. This is one advantage of doing this on a computer rather than on paper. I can make that kind of change a lot more easily. I don't like these crease areas here. They're kind of conflicting a little bit. Okay. And let's just do that for like his crook of his shoulder. So I'm trying to like hold a piece of paper here. I'm going to use it as reference. I'm holding it and I can see I have it slightly wrong compared to the way you would hold this naturally. So let me redo that using my left hand as a model here. The thumb will be on top of there. Looks quite different from what I've drawn from pure imagination. This looks better already. So I'm tucking my fingers in a little bit. So if we were to draw through here, there'd be a finger going to there, and then the rest of them are going under here like this. And then the bottom one's folded in here. See if that looks better. It's not quite there yet. Actually, what I'm going to do is pinch these in entirely. And of course, this middle finger here that I'm wondering, should it be here? I think we can take it out, either take it out or that might be okay, but I think it's better if I just take it out. It shouldn't catch the eye. It's not really area of primary interest. It should just look natural. So it's a postcard, so maybe there's a stamp on it. I don't know. U P up. So basically, if you don't know much about James Joyce's Ulysses, scholars have been arguing about this because it's a mystery and it's a detail that like runs through the book. So clearly Joyce meant something by it, and possibly nothing more than what's on the surface, like some mean person played a prank on him. But there seems to be more to it than that. So academics will get into big bun fights about exactly what it means. And one interpretation is it means UP stand up, like up a wall. But consensus, I think, is it doesn't. So I'm not getting into it because this is above my pay grade. But it's a great way to make a living arguing about codes. Apparently, Joyce was obsessed with ciphers, secret messages, and he was very good at it. So I'm going to make these trousers look a little bit beaten. Now it says his bath slippers, so I'm going to try to draw these. Well, I don't know what bath slippers looked like in the early 20th century in Dublin, but they probably were a bit softer than shoes. Okay. I'm not entirely happy with the background hand. Let me see if I can tweak that. So before I do anything weird, I'm going to take it onto its own layer. So right now I'm afraid it's going to cause problems. So Control C, Control X, Control Shift V. Come on. There we go. And let's put the hand on the layer behind. And let's see if we can play with this thing and maybe come up with like a different position. I think if I make his beard a bit longer too. So if I do this, I'm going to have to change the eye direction. Let me save this first. File, save as, desktop, Breen, because that's his name. And when I get into this kind of morass, I like to color code the layers so that I can see exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to make that beard a lot longer. So let's, in the text it actually says they're afraid he'll trip over his beard. How long was this beard exactly? So we have a bit of artistic license here. We can make him a bit more like a wilder version of Merlin or something. Okay, just leave it at that for now. I'm going to revisit that. And I can then go to the arm layer, just paint out the areas that are going to be behind. And see if that's going to work. And now to see what it looks like as a coherent image, we'll switch off the red overlay. I like that better, I think. Let's flip it horizontally again. Yep, 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 much better. One thing I'd like to do is pull this, you'll probably hear my wild little half feral cat running around in the background. Little Miss Sheba. Okay, I think that might help extend that a bit too. And I'm going to revisit this area here as well. A lot of these people would have had, like, you know, jackets and sort of formal attire more than we do. So I just want to hint at that. I don't want to get too kind of lost in it. Okay. So next thing to do will be to just tighten up this. And one nice thing to do, actually let me merge these two layers again. I think I'm happy enough. Let's commit. You don't have to, but I don't want to be messing around with multiple layers. So a darker line where there will be like a shadow, right? Like this is contacting the ground. So not that you're drawing a shadow, you're just like suggesting it. It's the line that you would do here would be a darker line than say here, where there's light falling on it. Just depends how naturalistic you want to be. The kind of detail that you don't really see when you have vector art stuff done in Flash, Animate CC, Harmony, or what have you, because it's just either too difficult or it's not worth it. So it's the kind of little detail that people will at some point forget ever existed. Here too, that line should probably be darker than say this line because the light's coming in from above. Okay, and I think let's just make the leg a little bit heavier there. Now I was a little bit unhappy about the way the beard turned out, so let's just, better to, if you feel unhappy with it, you can hack away at that, or we can just try something from scratch. Stronger shapes. We don't want to be too repetitious either. So the other thing we can do is curl it around like this so that it really looks like it's in a tangle, like his beard needs a comb. Let's see if that looks too fiddly or not. It might be too noodly. Yeah, I'm going to undo all of that again. when I'm doing these kind of curves, I like to avoid this kind of thing. It's kind of weak. So any individual stroke should be a C or an S curve. In general, you can make exceptions to that, but okay, let's try this. And here comes my cat. No, no, she would like to be involved in the process. Okay, let's try this. Maybe there. Again, too noodly. Ugh. Smaller. Let's add a few more. You know what? That's actually looking a bit better. It's still noodly, but it's a better kind of noodly. Does that make sense? And let's see here. I'm gonna it's just getting the balance right or shape that's nice to look at. Yeah. Maybe add a bit more here, just to kind of balance that out a bit. Like that. Okay, file, save. The hand here, I think, should be like a bit more veiny. Let me undo that. I worked with the wrong color. So should have some hairs on it, some tendons on the back. Okay, so file, save. And the other thing, I can use like a shaggy eraser if I want to bite into some of these lines that are a bit too sloppy here, a bit too blobby, make it a bit smaller. Whoops. And depending on how much time you want to sink into this, you can get some really nice kind of back and forth effects. So if you go in too dark with one line, you can eat it back with the eraser. And now when we zoom out, see the end results looking pretty good. We can add a little more details to like stuff that'll age them a little bit. Somebody this obsessed and careless of his health is going to start having a lot of lines on him, especially in Dublin in 1904. And to get the focus of interest more where we really want it on his face, that tonal contrast, that's going to pull the eye in. We want it in here. And the other thing too, like I think the eye direction should be a little up. We look up. Okay. And again, that darker line could go here because again, it'll be the shadow where I went a bit too dark with that. Let's pull it back a bit. But just to show that's where it's sitting on his head, that might be a bit too much. So I'll hit the E for eraser and just cut into that just a little bit. Okay. And the other thing too, we want to really focus on the eyes. Cannot overemphasize the importance of the eyes. We were always told during the hand-drawn era that they were the hardest thing to get right. I might have gone a bit too dark on them there. Let's pull them back a bit, a few undos. Okay. And maybe a shadow here too under the nose. Same thing. don't want it to look too jet black, but just darker than the line above it. Okay, let's go with that. So I like to clean up a couple of little bits where the lines have overshot here. And maybe a darker line there. Darker here where the shadow's going to be inside the cuff. Almost ready to start putting color or tone on it. Now, the only other thing I would want to do is see how these lines here, 1, 2, 3, 4, they're all the same tone. That can become kind of difficult to look at. So I'm going to help this one pop, and then brighten that a bit. I remember when that pop thing came in around 2003. Bloody plague. Worked in a studio where one of the people in charge didn't have any artistic sense, and one of the other artists said she's the kind of person who says make it pop, and I thought, oh God, that's not going to be good. And now it's just a thing people say. It means nothing. It means I don't like it. Change it. That's all that means. I don't have a clue what I want or how to communicate it. I just know I don't like what you did, and I want you to fap around for God knows how long, just doing other random things until one of them accidentally is the thing that I just happen to like, and I make 10 times more money than you do. That's all that means. So don't say it. Okay, I like this. Let me flip them horizontally, make sure it's not off balance. It's a little bit leaning to the left or the right if we do it like this. So I think we can probably pull him back up a little bit. That's going to change his feet slightly. So now we can go in and maybe we can get away with doing the two of them. I'll tidy it up if I have to. And then replant them on the ground like that. And back to the brush. Now you'll see where the lasso tool has made some very harsh cuts there. So I can get the eraser tool and just chop back in, take care of that. Okay. Yeah, I like that better now too. Okay. File. Save. So this is the line. I'm not going to spend too long coloring this. It's only one. Oh, what the heck did I do? Offset my hand. Line. Let's switch off the background and go new layer. White. And here's a quick way of doing this. This might not work because of the jaggy line. If I click on the outside and the negative spaces here and here, and then go select inverse, now we have an area that we can fill on this layer with white. The problem is it's a real mess. So this might work, it probably won't, but let's see if we can contract it by 11 pixels. Too much. Make it 9 pixels. Select, modify, contract, 9. Let's go with it and see what happens. I'll show you how we can clean it up too. Oops, wrong layer. Back to the white layer. Okay, now there might be points here where it didn't do the right thing. So I'm going to select the lasso tool and just delete those. All right. Oh, what a mess down here. Look at this. Yeah, these kind of long triangular shapes rarely work, so you have to go in and fine-tune them. Come on, go away. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, all right. And now if I go back to the white layer, all that's gone away. So we hold on Alt or Option on the Mac to make a duplicate white layer. Right click, go blending options, color overlay. Let's do this in color because it'll make them look really sickly. We don't want them to look well. So, okay, okay. This will be skin. And let's hold on Alt or Option and nest that under the white layer. So if we make any further adjustments, they're going to be limited to the area described by that white mask. So now we just do duplicates, and I'll go through it. And I want to have a layer for his clothes. So this is the tedious part, but you'll find as it goes on, if you've seen my previous movie about this, this subtraction process is cumulative. So the more parts you chop out onto a separate layer, the quicker the later parts will be to work on. I'm actually going to pick the collar, the cuff as well. Excuse me. Coat. Yeah, this is what I would look like if I let myself go. A little warning to keep eating broccoli. So, let's see here. And to drink in moderation. Now we can subdivide this area that I'm chopping up right now, so it's a very fluid, flexible process. Okay, so I think if I go Control C, Control X, Control Shift V, nest that in here, right click, blending options, color overlay, and you see we have all the areas we need here. We can modify it too in a bit. Let's make it a different color so there's some sort of saturation on it. And if you see areas that we've missed here, like I've over chopped there, and this is going to be his, let's say his coat, we can edit that out using the soft brush. Let's do that. And we should put the skin back in. So we're painting white. So each of these areas are colored by the blend mode. And I'm going to go to hard for this, not shaggy, because we want like a complete color area. That's fine. And I probably want to cut off the shirt. So let's do that. And maybe make it like dirty so it looks unwashed. So he's been kind of living in it. Okay, I don't think we see the shirt anymore. So let's go Control C, Control X, Control Shift V. And this is going to be shirt. Right click, blending options, color overlay, sort of yellow, dirty yellow. Filthy, terrible. Okay, now we can keep chopping away. Let's do, or we can do a different kind of overlay where we just paint it on top of this. We can do that also if we just want to put a white area for the eyes. And let's chop the hair off, and that could be the beard as well. And see how I'm doing these little jaggy strokes, so it kind of mirrors the jaggy line work too on the whiskers. And depending on how tight you are, you can be kind of loose about this. Remember when I said we're subtracting, so now when I go into some of these areas, I don't have to worry about this. Like I can just draw over the shirt area. I've already chopped that off. So as we proceed, it gets easier and easier to make these excisions and copies. So we go Control C, Control X, Control Shift V. Just call this one hair. Blending options, color overlay, and it should be sort of grayish. Different tonal value from the skin though, because I want the tonal range to be slightly different. And a little bit like that. What else do we have? So we've been chopping off all these bits. Oh, why do I have a layer? Oh, that's the eyes, layer 3. Always name layers, or you will atone. Okay, so now let's do the hat. Control C, Control X, Control Shift V. Hat's on top, so I'm going to put the hat on top. I like doing little mnemonics like that help me remember where I put things. Right click, blending options, color overlay, And I'm going to make this one just dark. Not quite so dark, but dark enough. Slowly getting there. And notice too that I forgot to move the eyebrows, and I also over chopped on the hat. So on the hat layer, let's get rid of that. And there should be a little area here. So I kind of got lost a little bit. So let's go into the skin, and I'm on eraser, so I need to put the skin layer back on there. And I can do a different layer too for the eyebrows. They don't have to be the same color as the hair. So let's just do that. It'll look like white for the moment. I'd like them to be a slightly different color from the beard. So call it eyebrows. And let's make them darker. Blending options, color overlay. Yeah, and that'll also accentuate the eyes. So the other thing we can do is smudge. So I've got the smudge tool, and I have a couple of different smudge tools. And we can, if you have like an issue getting like a right sort of blend feel, we can do that. You can do that to any of the layers. You can do it to the mask layer too if you think it looks a little bit weird, and then go to the hat, and there we go. You can kind of soften both of them. Let's see now. The eyebrows are a little too dark because they're the same color as the hat. So that's the beauty of this. We can control them in here. There we go. And the books. So remember, as we have been chopping, it helps just to see how little we have to register with now. So we only have to worry about that registration area there. And this here. Now Control C, Control X, Control Shift V, and now we have our books, or the leather part anyway. Right click, blending options, color overlay, and let's make these brown. And we need white as well for the paper. Now we already have a white layer for the eyes. I'm just going to add it on there. We could chop off the other area too. It's such a small area rather than making a new layer for it. And I'll use smudge just to soften that. Okay, that's looking good. Now, tonally, they're very similar to that tonal value. If I was to switch this to black and white, would be very similar. Let's make them a little bit different, either by lightening the coat. I think I'll lighten. Let's see. I think I'll change the coat to something a bit darker, maybe. Yeah. Sort of matches his hat a bit better. And now we can, we're very close to being done. So now we can do the feet, and we can just chop them off. Control C, Control X, Control Shift V, put them on the bottom. Slippers. Right click, blending options, and these should look a different color because that'll be the tell. Like if they look just like brown, they won't feel like they're slippers. So I want them to be a little eye-catching. What would they have been? What color would slippers have been in 1904? Well, let's pick yellow. Yep. And I want to put some socks on here. See all these jaggy little pixels? Like this one, a factor if I worked so fast on this, I really wasn't going to be too worried about them. Control Shift V. These will be socks. The solution to that would have been to use the smudge tool on the white layer and to soften the edge a bit, but you're honestly not going to notice very much if we zoom out. Okay, because this is going to be around this size, so it might be a bit noticeable, but not. There's also another way around that too. I'll show you that now. So one thing about this line is there's just the one line layer. I'm going to temporarily color that blue. and I'll do a cleanup layer on top of it, just to give it a little bit of a darker overlay. And that will actually resolve a lot of those kind of jaggy issues too. Oops, wrong layer, wrong brush. B, runny inker. Ah, I'm using white. That would be the reason. So now we can do sort of, I wouldn't call it a cleanup line necessarily, but more like a tie down. And probably what we should do here as well is put the colors back on. Switch them off. It's getting annoying. So when we do this kind of thing, you could take the kind of insipid way and just trace exactly over what's there. That problem with that is you'll kill it. So what we should be trying to do is find small areas where we can slightly go beyond the original cleanup line. Now I can't go too far here because I did the colors first, which is a little bit maybe out of order. But if we're reasonably close, we shouldn't be too far off. So by doing this too, we can give the original line a bit more weight, and it'll stop a lot of those jaggies. I was a little sloppy with the way I approached this drawing today because I'm in a bit of a rush. I have a deadline on another project looming, so. So here's an area where we can certainly go beyond the original drawing and just put some like extra definition on the eyebrows. And also some ink for the pupils. More definition on the upper eyelid. And here too, I'm going to make the line a bit thinner. I kind of like what I've already got, so I don't want to go too far with it, but we can go for like an asterisk kind of feeling a little more. And here too, we have like what should be a dark area in here where see the ear. Okay, let's see how much we have. Getting there. Again, you know, you might be happy with the original line. You might not want to go this far, but it's nice to have the option. We can switch this layer on or off if I think I've gone too far with a more conventional line style. And another trick, if you want to draw these long straight lines, click, shift, click, and we'll get, I wouldn't overdo this because it'll look too like an architect's plan or a blueprint. But if you do need like a particular straight line, that's one way of doing it. It's useful sometimes. Here maybe. Not so much here because that book is curved. Oops. Helps to close off these areas. Can feel a little lazy sometimes, sloppy if you don't. So really, I should have done this layer before I did the white mask. Um, it's just one of those things. We can add some little kind of texture on this, so it'll make it feel more like fabric rather than shoe leather. Same here, like it's sort of been stitched. It's like felt. You can see I'm adding like a little crease there. Wasn't on the original. Okay, the cats are starting to get hungry. It is approaching their dinner time. You're going to hear some angry felines real soon if I don't get this done. Okay, so it's here, there. Talk about a deadline. Okay, here we go. Another crease there. And, you know, if you're under a pinch, the main lines to be focusing on will be the silhouette. Anything on the outer end of it, I think, would be nicer to have done than stuff on the inside. I'll try to do it all. Okay, this infernal beard. Oof. Oops. Yeah. Sometimes very hard to get the line you want on a drawing tablet. Oh, that's so frustrating. Okay. We can add more little whiskers coming off here. The more of them you add, the more it looked like Jungle Book or Don Bluth from the 1980s. People who really paid the price for these kind of designs were the assistant animators and the in-betweeners. It's one thing to draw them on a key, but then the in-betweeners and assistants have to make sure they all flow into one another on the gazillion intermediate frames. So if the animator was in any way careless on their keys, they could get their animation approved, but sometimes the real difficulty was on the assistant and in-betweener end of it. Okay. Almost there. So close, so close. Why did I do this to myself? All right. The cats are coming. They're going to be angry. Okay. Ah! God, I hate it when these programs misbehave. All right, almost there. Oh God, she's looking at me. Here she comes. It's not a happy cat. Okay. So let's just, he's an old man, he's wrinkly, so we can give him, you know, some more details here just to help sell that. Let's put a little serif. It's 1904. They didn't have Helvetica yet. I used to set this stuff by hand in the 1980s. That was no fun. Okay. On Letraset. For those of you who remember Letraset, comment in the comments below. Oof. Spending money for each letter. Imagine that. Or you've run out of a certain type and a certain font. Then you have to run off to Harcourt Street to Kennedy's to buy another sheet of Franklin Gothic. Maybe you have 7 F's left or 2 E's, and you have to count the letters on the sheet because you don't have enough. Oh God, I don't miss that. Okay. All right. Come on, let's stop now. We could be here all day. I've already gone on too long. So let's put the colors back on. And the green layer should go off. That's just our little guide. And then, so we have the original line layer. Let's switch that back to black. And so what I've just spent all that time torturing myself doing was to add this layer here. So there'll be like little gaps there. Am I bothered? I don't know. Let's take the opacity down a bit. So it does give the line a bit more body. Yeah. So let me save this, file, save, and I'm going to do like a really quick hack. I'm going to duplicate that layer. And I love the way they make it really difficult to duplicate the group. Yep. And I'm going to merge all the colors onto one layer. Merge layers. And then if I'm really bothered by this, I can get the smudge tool. And actually, I need the white layer to be smudged too. So that's a problem, isn't it? So let's just do this, the white layer. Why don't I merge them together too? Merge layers. Come back. So merge those. And now I have a single layer that I can do this with. So that also gives us the ability to do a very quick pass over all of this, just to get that last little touch of painterliness to it. And we can even do some of the internal shapes here as well. So what we're doing is just working on this layer by itself. And probably put that upper line layer a bit darker too. Okay, back to the little smudgerama. I'm my own worst enemy when it comes to being picky. So this is probably more than really the job needs. But it does illustrate the importance of the order of operation. If you fall out of it, in this case, I didn't tighten the line. I went straight into color. I'm not paying the price just to make this last minute hack fix. Let's put the white layer on. It might give us a better feel. And actually, one thing we can do, double click on that, right click, blending options, color overlay, and just give them a darker background, make it blue. Let's see if we can get away with that. Okay. And that way too, we can see how our new color area here is behaving or misbehaving against different tonal backgrounds. So I'm going to want this guy to be against a dark background anyway. So ideally, he should work well against both, but I got lazy today and now I'm paying the price. Teach me. Okay, here we go. Almost there. Whoa, what went on there? So I missed that. So something silly happened there. So I'm just going to smudge that back into place. Okay, again, does not have to be perfect. So I think I should bring his coat a little up. But now you see it's on one layer, so I can't do that, can I? So I'm going to have to change the background. So I'll go back to color overlay and just take the background up a bit. Something in the mid-tone gray that's darker than his skin, but not as dark as his coat. That should be all right. And put a bit more saturation on it. Actually, they should sort of reflect his mind as well, because he's a little off. This guy, he's not a well man. So something sickly. You can take the saturation down. Yeah. And let's put a color on this is the other line cleanup. And actually, let's just merge these together, merge layers. And I'm going to put an ink line over that. So I want these to be red, so it catches the eye a bit more. So this time I'll go directly in with red. And this layer is now nested under that, so it will actually work as a mask. So anytime anything I paint on here will appear here as red. And I want maximum density. I don't want it to be slightly off or weak. So make sure that the thing doesn't bleed, and then we're good. So if anyone's any doubt about what this image represents, now they know. And I think we could probably do, oops, wrong layer. Like if we wanted to do like a shadow layer, we could add it still. Black might help a bit. Some of this shaggy. And let's take the opacity down a bit, so it's not too dense. And we can use that too to demark the interior of his coat. Anywhere else we need it. Maybe a little touch in there. A bit under the beard. Oh, look at that. The lip is the wrong color, so let's okay. Yeah, I'm not going to go too much further with shadows on this. I could add like a highlight area too. See, that was the shadow. Yeah, name that SH. Put a highlight layer in just for a couple of spots. LT, and go to white, shaggy, and then we can just hit this. It's a nice way too if you want to jump it out from the background. If you want to make it pop, could you make it pop? That would be great. I'm actually going to do a movie at some point about for people who want something to actually to sort of pop. But how do you describe that with like meaningful language and meaningful phrases? What exactly do you mean? What are you getting at there? Oh, wait a minute! Look at this. The postcard is skin colored. That's horrific. So let me go in and add one more area here. Oof. I would never have lived that down. Okay. And that also helps the postcard to jump out and read a little bit. I could keep going here all day. God almighty. Let's see. Shaggy. We could put some little tints on here. Please stop. You've done enough. He's already dead. Okay, all right. So then the last thing to do would be maybe add like a little ground layer down here, something gray and peepy colored because it's a really messy city at this time. Let's see here. Yeah, this is what I usually do for these kind of scenes. I don't go too mad into them because I want the main focus to be the character and not like a bunch of houses in the background. And also I'm lazy, so let's go and do a vignette. That is the wrong color. This has to that has to be white. Optical illusion. My brain is telling me that's yellow. It's white. Okay, so now little little vignette. Don't worry about him being on the wrong side of it. I will fix that momentarily. Okay, T to spread that here to here, there to there, and I think we can just put that beneath him, so he's just on top of it. So that gives us like a little bit of a spread. Oh God, file save. And I think I've ever lost a lot of work with a crash. You know what that was about. And now we sign it. Runny Inker. Move that to here. Ah! I did it on the wrong layer. Make a new layer for the SIG. And then our website, for those of you who want to follow along, The Adventures of Leopold Bloom and Stephen Dedalus. We try very hard to make the book comprehensible. Okay, now Control T. Just resize, re-pivot that a little bit. Ah, stop. Okay, and make that an opacity just so it's there but not overwhelming the image. Yeah, maybe put it over here. Nah, put it there. Control T, a bit smaller. V. Okay, file. Save. One last thing to do would be to flatten. So one thing I want to do is to put a little noise on it because I don't like this pure flat color area. So I don't do anything too mad. I just put some noise on it, but I don't want to lose the perfect white. So I'm going to merge layers, merge group, and merge the SIG. Filter, noise, add noise, and I think 8% for this image size should be fine. Might be a bit much. Let's undo it. Filter, noise, add noise. I had it at 8. Let's make it 5. Just to put a little bit of texture in there. And we wanted the same thing for these background layers here. Merge layers, filter, add noise. And now we've flattened the whole thing. Okay. And we save this as, don't overwrite, PNG, Breen. Oh, and one last thing too. Image size, file, height 1080. Keep them consistent. File, save as, Breen PNG, save. Okay, done. That's it. So, however long that was, felt like longer than an hour. It looks all right. I'm not unhappy with that. Hopefully, all the details are correct. And that is this week's drawing for the James Joyce podcast, bloomsandbarnacles.com. And if you like this drawing, I have a course in the LinkedIn Learning Library called Drawing Cartoon Characters. And it goes into all the tips and tricks and rules of thumb that are required to do this. So please go look at either of those two links if you'd like to know more. So cheers, and let me log out of here, and hopefully see you next time.